But he says, no, I really want a strong building. So I said, why? I don't understand. So what is your business plan? He looks at me, he's like, what are you talking about? I want to talk today about what an architect's job is, and I might use two stories specifically on how to understand what an architect brings to a project, because I think there's a massive misconception within the industry, at least on the smaller project size, of what an architect's job is and what they really bring to the table, or I will actually rephrase it, what they should bring to the table. Now, not a lot of architects actually do this, and they should do more of it, and I think these two iterations or illustrations will actually give you a better read on what I'm talking about. I'll give you an example. I actually had a client that came to us this week. Obviously, we don't name names. A client that came to us and asked for a conversation regarding a particular project and what they should do. And they were having a conversation about where they should place their low-income housing. Now, if you don't work in the New York market, you might not understand all the nitty-gritty of it, but you'll get a little bit of a gist of what an architect's job may be. So, for instance, he was asking, there's something called UAP FAR. So if you work in New York City, UAP FAR, which is built after the city of zoning, that UAP FAR could actually go above your market rate or your allowable FAR. So for instance, if I was allowed 10,000 square feet of regular FAR or 100,000 square feet of regular FAR, in this particular case, there was 120,000 square feet of regular FAR, I'm allowed a percentage bump, that gives me my FAR if I'm doing low-income housing, that goes above my allowable. So if I'm allowed 100,000 square feet, that will give me, let's say, an additional 20 or 40,000 square feet above my allowed 100,000 square feet. That's called UAP FAR. Now, UAP FAR, just so you understand, goes into something called low-income housing. Low-income housing, and UAP stands for Universal Affordability Program, which is Universal Affordability Program, UAP. UAP FAR. So now, UAP FAR goes above my market rate. Now, there is a clause that within the UAP FAR, if I issue UAP FAR, I must be at average of 60 AMI. Now, what is AMI? AMI stands for average median income. So we can go into conversations about AMI, and we can go into conversations about UAP and zoning, and we probably will get into a little bit more of that over different aspects. I just want to give you the story because I need to give a little bit of context to some of the acronyms I'm using. They're very confusing, I know. Trust me. It's a whole new language. We just make it up because New York likes doing that. So you take the UAP FAR and you take the 60% average median income. Now, if you're building at 60 AMI, any building, you build it at 60 AMI, and this is where we can get into the politics of low-income housing. We may do it one time at some point, but the politics of low-income housing, it just doesn't work. You can't build for 60 AMI and make money. It's impossible, okay? Today's construction in New York, average starts at $350 a foot. You cannot build for 60 AMI because your rent is so low at 60 AMI that the square footage value you're building to does not make you money, okay? Now, so why would I build it? It makes no sense. Just don't build it, right? Here's the catch. We want to get, when we build anything we build in New York, we want to get a tax abatement. To get a tax abatement, I need to give low-income housing. I need to give 25 to 30% low-income housing to get something called today a 485X. Now, 485X is a tax abatement given by the state government, not the city. The city has these policies. The state government gives me the tax benefit. There's something called the 421A, which has been moonlighted already and been ended. But going back to this particular project, this project had the new 421A. Now, what's the new 421A versus the old 421A? Tax abatements, we can go into different types of tax abatements, very confusing. But the old 421A allowed me to do something called 130 AMI, was type A, and then there's type B, which I was able to structure it differently. They took away type A. I can no longer do fully 130% AMI. So today, I can do some 130% AMI, but it's called type B for 421As, and therefore this particular project has still some leftover 130 AMI. Now 130 AMI, which is 130% of average median income, is actually market rate. So I took his saying. I said, look, if we take 130 AMI, which is actually basically almost market rate, and we take the additional 10%, which has to be at 70% AMI. So between those two components, if I took my total market rate and I shifted it and I do something that looks something like this in a way, where I have my 130 is within my market rate, my additionals above sits in my UAP FAR. Now I get my tax abatement, I get a lot less low-income housing into the building, and now I maximize my best usage, which in turn gets me my tax abatement as well, okay? This is an actual conversation I had with a client. Now, this sounds confusing and complicated, but an architect can say, I just design buildings. I don't even know how your tax abatement works. I don't know how any of this stuff works. No, I need to understand, because my job as an architect is to make you make money. And if I can't figure out how to make you make money, then that kind of defeats the purpose. What we're here for. So when you're coming to me to design a building, we're not just here to design a building, we're here to make your building work for you. And your job as a developer is to make money on the building. And if we design a building that you're not making money on, you and I are both wasting our time. Now, I might get paid for it, but you're going to lose money, which doesn't really work for us, right? Because we want to come back. We come back again and again and again. So as an architect, our job is to make you make money. And if I can't figure out how to do that in your project, it's irrelevant. So I have to understand your deal and your design, your finances, just as well as you do, because the more I understand it, the better your project comes out. So that's story one. Story one is we were sitting there figuring out logistically, monetary components, tax abatements, every single component to it, uses embedded into it, what use to go to, negotiations with his particular tenants on pre-sale, on modification of the building till we can figure out where we can bifurcate components and sell them off, yet keep certain other components so his finances work. All that's part of the conversation of an architect on a single job. And if an architect doesn't know this, sorry to tell you, he's only doing half of his job. An architect needs to understand this. I have a second story which I think would actually illustrate this very, very well. And the second story is we had a client that we were on the phone with literally today, and we were having a conversation regarding the type of construction that he should do in his project. And I asked him, I said, see, he starts telling me I want to do poured concrete, the building's got to be strong to last forever. I said, yeah, as an architect, we try to make buildings that are strong. I said, you could actually make a wood building that's strong that will last, not the word forever, because I don't believe that anything lasts forever, but at least very, very long, that it's not going to make a difference. But he says, no, I really want a strong building. So I said, why? I don't understand. I said, what is your business plan? He looks at me, he's like, what are you talking about? What is your business plan? I said, do you plan on building the building, owning it for 5 to 10 years, making sure it's profitable, and then selling it off? He goes, well, yeah. So I said, so then you're looking at a 10-year horizon, maybe 15-year horizon. What's this forever business? Who really cares? That's not part of the conversation. The business plan is the key structure to getting it to work. That is what it takes. And an architect has to be able to understand that, because if you're having conversations about it and I don't understand your business plan, I'm a bad guy. An architect's job is to really, really understand this. And if he doesn't understand this, sorry to say, find another architect. With that, please subscribe. Again, I'm going to reiterate what we said in the last video. If you have anything you'd like us to look up, discuss business-wise, whether it's architecture-wise, design-wise, conception-wise, want us to look at anything that you want us to send us, please send it to us. We will gladly respond as best as we possibly can. With that, please subscribe.